In the light of the Renaissance, the journey of an artist in Florence. A summer morning in Florence. It was a summer morning in 1452, as the first rays of the sun painted the banks of the Arno River golden. Young painter Lorenzo walked slowly toward his workshop along the narrow streets of Florence. Only 20 years old, Lorenzo was an artist chasing his dreams in the city considered the heart of the Renaissance. His workshop was near the city's political and artistic center, under the patronage of the Medici family, within the complex yet fascinating atmosphere of the Florentine Republic. Lorenzo inherited old brushes and canvases from his father, and, besides creating his own art, wandered the streets observing people, architecture, and nature, searching for new inspiration and stories every day. Florence was not only the center of art, but also science and philosophy. Geniuses like Leonardo da Vinci, Michelangelo, and Botticelli lived in the city's streets. Lorenzo was inspired by them, competed with them, and simultaneously sought to find his own unique style. One day, at an exhibition in the city square, Lorenzo's life unexpectedly changed. While wandering the exhibition, a young envoy from the Medici family admired his paintings and made him an important offer. "Great Lorenzo, your talent should shine not only in Florence, but throughout Italy. On behalf of our family, we want you to work with us on a special project." This offer opened the door to Lorenzo's dreams, but also brought great responsibility. The project was intertwined with the Medici family's political power and the complex world where art was used as a tool. Under the shadow of the Medici, Lorenzo's first visit to the Medici palace was as enchanting as it was intimidating. The palace's high ceilings, massive frescoes adorning the walls, and art displayed in every corner inspired him, but also made him realize how complex this world was. He began working in a special workshop given to him. His project was to contribute to the design of a new monument in the city's most magnificent square. This monument was not just an artwork, but a display of the Medici family's political power over Florence. While working, Lorenzo thought about the Renaissance's endless trust in human intellect and talent, and how this talent was sometimes entangled with politics. Conversations with other artists and intellectuals he met in the palace broadened his worldview. Especially his debates with Filippo Brunelleschi, Florence's famous mathematician and engineer, taught him that art was not only visual, but based on geometric and scientific principles. When Lorenzo picked up his brush with this new perspective, his paintings became not only aesthetic, but works woven with scientific principles. Rivalry and brotherhood. However, amidst this bright atmosphere, the art world was also the center of ruthless competition. Lorenzo's greatest rival was the talented and ambitious young painter Giovanni, who was supported by another relative of the Medici family and saw Lorenzo's rise as a great threat. One day, during a feast held at the Medici palace, the two young painters' works were compared. Lorenzo's painting was filled with scenes from classical mythology, stunning in detail and color harmony. Giovanni's work was more avant-garde and innovative. He brought human figures to life with light and shadow play. Discussions continued long in artistic circles, and opinions split among Florence's art lovers. Yet beyond rivalry, a feeling of respect and brotherhood grew between Lorenzo and Giovanni. They learned from each other, overcame difficulties together, and grasped the profound meaning of sharing the spirit of the Renaissance. Love and inspiration. Another important element in Lorenzo's life, as much as art, was Isabella. She was a cultured and elegant young woman raised in Florence's high society, devoted to art and science. Her love and understanding formed a deep connection with Lorenzo's creative soul. As Isabella saw Lorenzo's paintings, she inspired him and dreamed of Florence's future with him. However, their love had to face a difficult path due to strict social rules and political relations between families. One day, Lorenzo secretly showed Isabella a painting he made. The painting depicted not only mythological figures, but also hopeful people of the future, free-thinking, brave, and wise individuals. When Isabella saw this work, her eyes filled with tears, and she embraced Lorenzo's dreams more tightly. Challenges and turning point. By 1455, political tensions rose in Florence. Enemies of the Medici family gained strength, and unrest appeared in the city streets. In this environment where art was a symbol of power, Lorenzo felt under pressure. One night, a mysterious letter was left in his workshop. The letter warned Lorenzo not to convey political messages in his artworks. This threat not only restricted his creative freedom, but also endangered his life. However, Lorenzo did not give up. He believed art was a power that freed the human soul. He decided to create more courageous, deeper, and emotionally touching works. This decision made him a pioneer of a new era in Florence's art scene. Florence's political storm. At the end of 1455, the political atmosphere in Florence became increasingly complicated. The power of the Medici family was threatened by some nobles and republicans. Cosimo de' Medici, Lorenzo's protector and Florence's de facto ruler, was cautious in this period full of political intrigues. His greatest rival, Rinaldo degli Albizzi, was plotting to seize control of Florence. The Albizzi family created a strong opposition in the city and gathered Medici's adversaries around them. These tensions led to not only political, but social conflicts. Although Lorenzo worked under Medici patronage, he didn't want his art to be affected by these conflicts. But the facts were different. Art and politics were always intertwined in Florence. As an artist, the message of his works was important both for the public and the rulers. He started working on a large fresco glorifying Medici's political power, symbolizing the victories and hopes of the Florentine Republic. While working on the project, he had to reflect the tension caused by political disputes in the city in his art. The union of science and art. The Renaissance was also an awakening period in science. In Florence and other Italian cities, revolutionary developments were happening in anatomy, engineering, astronomy, and mathematics. Leonardo da Vinci made major contributions to both art and medicine with his detailed studies on human anatomy. Lorenzo closely followed Leonardo's work and sometimes collaborated with him on drawings of the human body. Making human figures more realistic and lively was one of the greatest innovations of the period. At the same time, thinkers like Nicholas Copernicus were developing new theories about the structure of the universe. Although Copernicus's heliocentric model was not yet fully accepted, it ignited major debates in the scientific world. Lorenzo was curious how these ideas would reflect on art and philosophy. Cultural change and humanism. One of the fundamental ideas of the Renaissance was humanism, a shift from the dogmatic, church-centered worldview of the Middle Ages to emphasizing human intellect, individual talent, and freedom. In Florence, thinkers like Marsilio Ficino and Pico de Mirandola advocated this idea. They viewed humans as free beings, the center of the universe, capable of shaping their destiny. This change was clearly reflected in Lorenzo's works. His paintings and frescoes included not only religious figures, but also mythological characters, everyday people, philosophers, and scientists. His art portrayed human strength, weaknesses, passions, and hopes. The printing press's impact and the revolution of knowledge. Gutenberg's printing press revolutionized access to knowledge, accelerating the spread of the Renaissance. Printing workshops opened in Florence, making classical Greek and Roman texts, scientific books, and art theories available to the public and intellectuals. Lorenzo eagerly read newly published art treatises and classical texts, synthesizing them with his own understanding. This development created a new intellectual debate environment among artists. Through printing, designs for frescoes and paintings, technical manuals, and perspective rule books became widespread. Art education became more systematic and accessible to a broader audience.
The intersection of art and war. The political chaos in Florence led to art being used as a tool of propaganda. The Medici family used art to consolidate their power and influence the people. Lorenzo had to work on artworks produced for these political purposes. Some paintings portrayed Medici as protectors and symbols of peace. However, Lorenzo believed art should not be just for political power, but a language that touches the human soul. In these works, created under the shadow of war, hidden messages of hope, resistance, and the desire for peace were embedded. Lorenzo carefully balanced this delicate line. Encounter with Leonardo da Vinci. Towards the end of 1458, Lorenzo's life reached an important turning point. The young artist, who was gaining fame in Florence's art circles, met Leonardo da Vinci, then 26 years old, at a private event at the Medici Palace. Leonardo was not just a painter, but an engineer, scientist, and philosopher. His multifaceted genius deeply influenced Lorenzo. They had long conversations about art and science. Leonardo shared ideas on perspective, anatomy, and mechanics, while Lorenzo offered suggestions on painting techniques and color use. Leonardo was working on designs for a massive mural in the Medici family's palace, a project Lorenzo joined. Their collaboration became a perfect example of the Renaissance's fusion of art and science. Shadows of war. Though the Renaissance light shone brightly, Italy's political structure was complex. In 1459, tensions rose between Florence and Venice, leading to brief but intense conflicts. The Medici family, holding seats in the Florentine Military Council, planned to protect the city-state, while Lorenzo used his artistic identity to boost public morale during these difficult times. He created paintings with anti-war messages, emphasizing peace and unity. Florence's streets filled with soldiers and refugees. Lorenzo joined relief campaigns alongside his art. Art and solidarity were intertwined for him. The birth of Michelangelo and a new genius. By 1460, another talent emerged in Florence, Michelangelo Buonarroti. Lorenzo witnessed Michelangelo's youth and closely followed his early works. Michelangelo's extraordinary talent in sculpture heralded a new era in Florence's art world. Though from different disciplines, Lorenzo and Michelangelo became friends, sharing the great vision of the Renaissance. Together, they discussed sculptures and decorations for the Florence Cathedral's dome. Michelangelo mastered portraying human anatomy and emotions in his sculptures, while Lorenzo sought similar depth in his paintings. Cultural innovations and the printing press. The invention of the printing press by Johannes Gutenberg in the 1450s revolutionized information dissemination. Printing workshops in Florence facilitated the spread of classical Greek and Roman works, scientific knowledge, and artistic theories. Lorenzo enthusiastically followed these developments. He believed printing would enable art books and classical texts to reach wider audiences, spreading knowledge among artists and scholars. Personal losses and stubborn hope. Life did not easily yield to Lorenzo. In 1462, Isabella fell suddenly ill, dealing a heavy blow to the young artist. During her long illness, Lorenzo poured more meaning into his art. His pain and love gave a new intensity and emotional depth to his brushstrokes. These works earned great admiration throughout Italy. Meanwhile, the Medici family's political power began to weaken. New political movements arose in Florence, and Lorenzo struggled for both art and love, never losing hope. Italy's fragmented map and endless wars. 15th century Italy was a mosaic of small city-states, principalities, and republics. Florence, Venice, Milan, the Papal States, and Naples were in constant power struggles, preluding the Italian Wars. Florence grew wealthy through strong trade and banking, worrying rivals like the Sforza dynasty in Milan and the Venetian Republic, who formed alliances to balance Florence's power. The Treaty of Lodi in 1454 brought short-lived peace but was fragile. Lorenzo sought to keep his art separate from these political turmoils, but was inevitably influenced by the tension. Scientific revolution and Renaissance enlightenment. The Renaissance was an awakening in science. Florence and other Italian cities witnessed revolutionary developments in anatomy, engineering, astronomy, and mathematics. Leonardo's detailed anatomy studies benefited both art and medicine. Lorenzo sometimes collaborated with him on human body drawings, aiming for realism and vitality in figures. Meanwhile, thinkers like Nicholas Copernicus proposed heliocentric models, sparking major debates. Lorenzo wondered how these scientific ideas would reflect in art and philosophy. Cultural shift and humanism. Humanism emphasized human intellect, individuality, and freedom, moving away from the dogmatic church-centered worldview. Florentine philosophers Marsilio Ficino and Pico della Mirandola portrayed humans as free beings at the center of the universe, capable of shaping destiny. Lorenzo's paintings reflected this, including religious, mythological, everyday, philosophical, and scientific figures, portraying human strength, weaknesses, passions, and hopes. Printing press's impact and knowledge revolution. Gutenberg's press spread Renaissance knowledge rapidly. Florence's printing workshops published classical texts, scientific works, and artistic treatises, accessible to the public and intellectuals. Lorenzo avidly studied these materials, synthesizing classical and contemporary art theories. Art and war's intersection. Florence's political chaos made art a propaganda tool. The Medici family used art to consolidate their power and influence the people. Lorenzo worked on artworks portraying the Medici as protectors and symbols of peace, but believed art should touch the human soul beyond politics. His works contained hidden messages of hope, resistance, and the desire for peace amid the war's shadow. Lorenzo's inner turmoil. After Isabella's recovery, Lorenzo found peace returning, but wrestled with his creative struggles and external expectations. Late nights in his workshop, he often questioned whether art was mere technique or the language of the soul. Isabella understood his turmoil and encouraged him, strengthening the bond between love and inspiration. Brotherhood and rivalry with Giovanni. Lorenzo and Giovanni's complex relationship blended rivalry and brotherhood. Visiting Giovanni's studio, Lorenzo saw his rival's bold innovations and maturity, inspiring him to embrace courage and freedom in his art. Political and artistic pressures at the Medici Palace. Time in the Medici Palace was both an artistic zenith and a political maze. Cosimo de' Medici's demands sometimes restricted Lorenzo's creative freedom, especially in works glorifying the family. Once, a personal painting expressing human soul's complexity was deemed too dark and ordered changed, causing Lorenzo to withdraw. Supported by Isabella and Giovanni, Lorenzo resolved to keep art independent from politics. Hope and new horizons. Lorenzo believed art united people. He mentored young artists, teaching technique and social responsibility. His works reached broader audiences, touching both rich and common people, spreading messages of peace, love, and humanity. Despite Florence's challenges, Lorenzo and his circle became the Renaissance pioneers, leaving a lasting legacy across Europe.
The Pazzi conspiracy and its aftermath. In 1478, Florence faced one of its most dramatic and dangerous moments,
the Pazzi conspiracy. A powerful rival family, the Pazzi, together with some supporters within the church and the Kingdom of Naples, plotted to assassinate Lorenzo de' Medici and his brother Giuliano to overthrow Medici rule. Lorenzo, now in his late 20s, narrowly escaped death during the brutal attack at the Florence Cathedral. Giuliano was tragically murdered, but Lorenzo survived with a wound and an unbroken will. This event shook Florence to its core. Lorenzo's survival turned him into a symbol of resilience and strengthened his political position, but also plunged the city into violent reprisals and instability. For Lorenzo, the conspiracy was a grim reminder of how art and politics were inseparable in his world. His subsequent works became more somber, reflecting themes of betrayal, loss, and the fragile nature of power. The expansion of Medici patronage. Despite the turbulence, the Medici family continued to expand their patronage of the arts and sciences. Lorenzo became a key figure in this cultural flourishing, sponsoring artists, architects, poets, and philosophers. Under his influence, Florence saw the construction of iconic structures, such as the Laurentian Library, designed by Michelangelo, which housed the vast collection of classical texts collected by the Medici. Lorenzo also supported the young Sandro Botticelli, whose masterpiece, The Birth of Venus, would come to symbolize the Renaissance's celebration of classical mythology and beauty. The rise of Savonarola and religious turmoil. In the late 1480s, Florence experienced a profound religious upheaval with the rise of Geronimo Savonarola, a Dominican friar who preached against the moral corruption of the ruling classes and the excesses of Renaissance art. Savonarola's fiery sermons attracted many followers, calling for austerity and the destruction of sinful artworks and luxuries. Lorenzo, although deceased by this time, had set the stage for this conflict between humanist ideals and religious conservatism. His former protégés and the Florentine populace were divided, and the bonfire of the vanities, where many artworks and books were burned, symbolized this clash. The dawn of a new era. As the 15th century came to a close, Europe was on the brink of vast changes. The fall of Constantinople in 1453 sent waves of Greek scholars and classical knowledge westward, enriching Renaissance thought. The early explorations of the New World and the eventual invention of the telescope and microscope would soon revolutionize humanity's understanding of the cosmos and life itself. Lorenzo's generation laid the foundations for these transformations by fusing art, science, and humanism. His life was a testament to the power of creativity and resilience amid political and social upheaval. The Renaissance ripples across Europe. The vibrant artistic and intellectual awakening that blossomed in Florence under patrons like Lorenzo and the Medici family did not remain confined to Italy. As ideas and techniques traveled along trade routes, through printed books, and via the movement of artists and scholars, the Renaissance began to reshape the cultural landscape of Europe. In the courts of France, England, and the Low Countries, noble patrons eagerly embraced Italian Renaissance ideals. Portrait painting flourished, emphasizing realism and the individual's personality, a shift from the symbolic art of the medieval period. The evolution of artistic techniques and themes. Innovations pioneered by Florentine artists, such as the use of linear perspective, chiaroscuro, the contrast of light and shadow, and anatomical accuracy, became fundamental tools for artists across Europe. Artists began portraying more naturalistic human figures, detailed landscapes, and complex narratives that combined religious themes with classical mythology and daily life. This broadened the scope of art from purely devotional objects to profound expressions of human experience. Lorenzo's own works, blending scientific insight with emotional depth, helped set this standard. His approach inspired countless artists to see painting and sculpture not just as craft, but as intellectual and philosophical endeavors. The printing press and the democratization of knowledge. The invention and spread of the printing press accelerated the dissemination of artistic techniques, scientific discoveries, and humanist philosophy.
Art treatises, such as Leon Battista Alberti's De Pictura and Vasari's later Lives of the Artists, circulated widely, educating a new generation of artists far beyond Florence. Scientific diagrams and anatomical studies reached scholars and practitioners in distant cities like Antwerp, Nuremberg, and London, fostering a pan-European dialogue between art and science. The impact on society and thought. The humanist ideals central to the Renaissance encouraged a new conception of the individual as a rational, creative being with potential for greatness. This cultural shift influenced politics, education, and religion. Monarchs used art to project power and cultivate prestige. Universities incorporated classical learning, and religious reformers wrestled with the changing intellectual climate. Art became a language that communicated complex ideas about humanity, divinity, and the natural world, accessible to a broader public. Seeds of the scientific revolution. The close relationship between art and science during the Renaissance laid the groundwork for the scientific revolution in the 16th and 17th centuries. Artists' precise anatomical studies helped physicians understand the human body better. Their interest in optics contributed to the development of lenses and instruments. Thinkers like Copernicus, Galileo, and Kepler pushed the boundaries of knowledge, challenging old paradigms and opening the door to modern science. Legacy of Lorenzo and the Renaissance spirit. Though Lorenzo's lifetime was marked by political turbulence and personal struggle, his role as an artist and patron helped ignite a cultural transformation that would echo through the centuries. The Renaissance spirit, curiosity, creativity, and faith in human potential continues to inspire art, science, and society. Through the fusion of historical events, personal stories, and artistic breakthroughs, we see how a single city and a handful of visionary individuals like Lorenzo changed the course of European history.